So I know how the voting system works in the UK, and I've got my opinions on that, and I'm sure I'll share it during the video. But I have no idea how the Australian voting system works. It is general election time. I won't share my views, even though you may already know them. So I'm going to find out how the preferential system works.
Stop listening to your dad when he tells you that if you vote for a minor party, you're throwing your vote away. It's not how the Australian electoral system works at all.
I feel I have to jump in within 9 seconds. Sadly, over in the UK, that is how it works. Where I live in Eastleigh, don't come stalking me. Where I live in Eastleigh, it's either Tories or Lib Dems, so either the right wing or the middle. I want to vote Labour, the left, and there's no point because my vote really is wasted. It's the way that it works is, granted, if everyone, people are only voting Lib Dem because they think that they can't vote Labour because Labour won't win in the area. Whereas if everyone voted Lib Dem, voted for Labour, then it would work, it's fine. But sadly, changing and giving people the confidence to vote for that minor party in the area, to change it to being a major party, is very difficult. So in my area, to stop the Tories from getting in, I have to vote Lib Dem. It's frustrating. It is so frustrating, but you've got to do it.
Let me explain.
It's Voting 101 for 2022 with Matilda Bosley from The Guardian, Australia.
Lots of people's first exposure to how voting works comes from TV shows, often from the US and UK. But there are heaps of differences between how elections over there work versus here in Australia.
To be fair, I'm not sure if the Americans, the Yanks know how the American system works, do they? I don't think anyone knows how the Yankee system works. Oh, that is confusing. Really, really confusing. At least our system isn't that confusing. Yeah, loads of seats in the House available per area. If your person gets, if the person in your area gets the most votes, they're the MP, and you've got to get the majority. It's fairly simple, but not great for getting a fair result.
Perhaps the most important difference is that we use a preferential voting system, and those guys use first past the post. It's easiest to explain what this actually means by comparing these two ways of voting. So in first past the post elections, you cast your vote for the one candidate that you most want to win. Whoever gets the most votes gets elected. Simple.
Sort of.
But there are some problems with that. Okay, so let's say you're voting in a lower house electorate and one of the huge election issues is public transport. There are 3 candidates. 2 of them want to build a train station and the other one thinks that a ferry terminal would be way better. In the community, there are actually way more train-loving voters, but oh no, their votes have been split and the ferry party gets in.
So this is my exact point about in my local area. It's the same in Winchester where I'm from, where it's Lib Dem and Tory. So if you think, say these are the Tories, the right wing, let's be honest, and then you've got Lib Dem and Labour. So Lib Dem gets most of the votes because over the years it's seen you have to vote for them, because if you don't vote for them and you vote for Labour, the spread of votes is spread too thinly, and then neither party would win, and the right wing get it. So it's trying to, how do you get over the fact? How do you get it? So look, no one wants to vote Lib Dem. With all due respect, Lib Dem are a nothing party. Then they just seem to have this because of through history, and it's not been able to change. But no one wants to vote them. But it's that fear of, okay, well, if I don't vote them, but not everyone else, not everyone else doesn't vote for them, then it's going to be spread too thinly. So it's a pain in the backside.
Let's look at the same situation with a preferential system. Here, you don't just tick a box.
Do you do like
write
1, 2, or
numbers
3?
from 1 to, in this case, 3, in the order of who you most want to win. They are your preferences. Now, the first round looks the same. Everyone's grouped next to their first preference. But wait, no candidate has the majority of the votes. No one has more than 50%. So that means we go to a second round. Locomotive Lovers has the least number of votes, so let's take them out of the running and all their supporters will now have their number 2 preference counted instead. All of a sudden, Train Time has more than 50%, so they win that seat. Of course, in a real election, there would be way more candidates and way more rounds and way more election issues, but basically this preferential voting system makes it a lot less risky to vote for a minor party or an independent candidate.
Straight away, how much better is that? How much better is that? So for example, in my local area, like I said, I would be voting, okay, first choice would be Labour. Because I'm a centre left. I want Labour. And then my second vote would go to Lib Dems. And I just would not vote for Tories. So at least then, if in this situation, if there is still a more of a fear to vote Labour than Lib Dems, at least your second vote would go to Lib Dems and it wouldn't damage either Labour or Lib Dems in that sense. So that straight away. Why do we not do this? Why do we not do this? I think there was actually possibly a referendum, or it was brought up in our House of Commons about changing the voting system because loads of people know how rubbish it is. And I don't think it passed, sadly.
As your vote will never be just thrown away. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about how to figure out what order you want your preferences to actually be in. In the real world, it's worth remembering that Labor and the Liberal National Coalition are by far the most dominant parties. So in most electorates, eventually it will come down to a competition between the two of them. If either of these guys are your favourite,
bloody
easy peasy.
Liberal.
Just put a 1 next to their name before numbering all the other candidates in order of your preference.
If you do want to vote for a minor party, but still have a preference of if you prefer a Labor government or a Liberal National Coalition government, just put whoever you like as number 1 and then make sure you eventually put your preferred big boy party before the other. If it does come down to it, your vote for them will count for just as much. Oh, there's one more thing I need to tell you. When you go to the polling booth, all of the parties are going to hand you a leaflet that tells you how to vote for them. This card will show you the order they want you to put your preferences in that will give them the best chance of winning the seat.
I would tell them to shove it up their backside, with a less polite way of saying it.
But it's important to note that you do not have to follow these recommendations at all. But if you really like that candidate or that party, sticking to their order does tend to help them the most. Basically, just go with your gut.
Why can't we have this method? Why can't we have preferential voting? Our system is so rubbish because for the reasons I've given. I want Labour to win, and lots of people in my area want Labour to win, but the risk of voting for them and not having enough people voting because they're still going to spread it to Liberal Democrats, which are the middle. Don't forget, your Liberals are not liberal. Ours are. And it's so frustrating. At least a preferential voting method would allow you to not spread the votes too thin for similar-ish parties. And I'm not saying Lib Dems are necessarily similar to Labour, but they are not as evil as the right-wing Tories. So I think that would be so much better to have a preferential voting system for sure. And I think if we did, a lot of areas would change. I do think Eastleigh, where I live, would become a solid Lib Dem or a Labour. I don't think Tories would win it. I really don't think they would win it. And I think that would be the same in Winchester. It would be a solid Lib Dem or a Labour, and Tories wouldn't get it. And it's a tricky one because you've got to try and get things to change. Now, all I would say is with your system, clearly you do not have a wasted vote. Your vote is not wasted, okay? And I know this gets said all the time before every election. Go and vote. I vote every year since I was eligible to vote at the age of 16. I think it was 16. It was a while ago now. I have been to vote, and that's for local elections, for general elections, because I've got to have my opinions felt and observed, and the only way of doing that is by voting for someone that I believe has similar values to me. So go and vote. If you want to moan at me for telling you to go and vote, feel free. That's absolutely fine. Make sure you like and subscribe. Hopefully we're going to see a change in Australia, and then hopefully in a few years' time we'll see a change in the UK as well. Any opinions, feel free to share. That's absolutely fine. I love seeing the comments. I love the debate in the comments. Like and subscribe. I'll catch you next time. It's voting day.